Good morning, students. So I was discussing the rules of binomial nomenclature yesterday. Before that, we learned diversity in the living world. Okay. Then we learned about taxonomy. Then we started nomenclature, in that particularly binomial nomenclature. Remember, when we learned about biodiversity, estimation range is around 1.7 to 1.8 million organisms which have been scientifically identified and that is classified, named and classified. See, to this list every year, 15,000 new organisms are discovered. New organisms are discovered every year. That means the list, the range what we have, that is increasing day by day as we are discovering new organisms. Then I said Carolus Linnaeus is the father of taxonomy. Modern taxonomy, one and the same, don't get confused. Carolus Linnaeus is the father of taxonomy or father of modern taxonomy. Taxonomy term I told coined by A.P.D. Cantor. A.P.D. Cantor. If you want full name, Augustine Paramas D. Cantor. Augustine Paramas D. Cantor. That is the full name of this French biologist who gave the term taxonomy in 1830. Father of taxonomy, Carolus Linnaeus. Father of Indian taxonomy, father of Indian taxonomy, full name Henry Santa Pau. I gave only Santa Pau yesterday, so complete name Henry Santa Pau. That is father of Indian taxonomy. So I was discussing the rules of binomial nomenclature. We learnt two rules yesterday. Every organism is given scientific name containing two words. First name is genus, second name is species. Okay. Latinized name of genus and species is generic name. Latinized name is generic name of genus and specific name of species. Specific name is also referred as specific epithet. Epithet is an adjective expressing a quality or attribute that I told. Genus name is compared to noun and species name is compared to an adjective. The third rule of the binomial nomenclature, which was given by Carolus Linnaeus. Biological names or scientific names are derived from Latin language. Biological name or scientific names of organisms are derived from Latin language or can be Latinized or Latinized. Take for example, you have panther. It is Latinized as Panthera. It is Latinized as Panthera. Yesterday we learned about Mangifera indica, scientific name of mango, genus, species. So here, India, Latinized as indica, Indian subcontinent origin. Indian subcontinent origin. India is a Latinized as. So, biological names are derived from Latin language or they are Latinized. Example, panther as Panthera and India as indica in some example, that is Mangifera indica, Tamarindus indica, whatever the example. When the scientific names are handwritten, the two words genus and species. When scientific name is handwritten, coconut, scientific name, Cocos nucifera. The two word genus and this is species. Okay. When the scientific name or biological names are handwritten, genus and species, we will write separately. And these should be underlined separately. These should be underlined separately when they are handwritten. Remember this. When the scientific name or biological names are handwritten, genus and specific name should be separately underlined. When the scientific name is printed, when it is printed, it should be in italics. It should be in italics to denote, to indicate Latin origin. To denote or to indicate Latin origin. Names are, scientific names are of Latin origin. Okay, so when the scientific name is printed, it should be italic font. In computer, different fonts are there. Tahoma, Arial black, like that. Italic font. So I will write so like this. In italic font, you can print the scientific name. The author, the taxonomist, who will give the scientific name for the first time, his name should be written in an abbreviated form, in the Roman type, in an abbreviated form. Take for example, this is the scientific name of man, human being, scientific name, Homo sapiens. This is the genus name and this is species name. The author, the taxonomist who publishes the name for the first time, his name should be written in Roman type in an abbreviated form, starting with capital letter. There should not be any punctuation mark in between the scientific name and the scientist, taxonomist who published the name. So, Homo sapiens Lin. This refers to, this scientific name was first time given or published by Carolus Linnaeus. Carolus Linnaeus has given this scientific name. There should not be any punctuation mark between the scientific name and the taxonomist. So, the author, the taxonomist who publishes the scientific name for the first time, his name is written in Roman type in an abbreviated form at the end of scientific name. At the end of scientific name without using any punctuation mark. Remember, the author, the taxonomist who publishes the name of an organism for the first time, his name is written in Roman type. Roman type at the end of scientific name, in an abbreviated form, short form. Abbreviated form in short form. This is the short form of Carolus Linnaeus without using any punctuation mark. Another example. Mangifera indica, scientific name of mango, given by Carolus Linnaeus. So this is the another rule. Scientific name should not contain less than 3 letters and more than 12 letters. Scientific name should not contain less than 3 letters. Minimum 3 letters, more than 3 letters. What is the maximum limit? Up to 12 letters. Scientific name means either it is homo, that is genus, or species. Genus or species, the letter limit in that word is 3 letter, minimum, maximum up to 12 letter. There may be some exceptions for this, but usually within this letter range, the word of genus and species will be. Principle of priority. Listen carefully. A organism has been given 2 or more scientific names. The organism has been given 2 or more scientific names. Take for example, a fungus which cause white rust disease named Albugo candida has been given another name, Cystophus candidus. Another name, Cystophus candidus. This name was given first. This name was given later on. When an organism is given 2 or more scientific names, then which one we have to consider? Principle of priority. Priority is given to which name? Priority is given to first scientific name. Preference is given to it. First preference is given to the old name. Old name means first name which was published. This name was published earlier. This is the old name. This is the new name which was published later on. So first preference should be given to this. This should be valid. Valid means it should be in accordance to the rules. It should be in accordance to the rule. So the first or the old scientific name should be given first preference. And this name, this valid name, which is new, which was published later on, this name is regarded as synonym. This is regarded as synonym. Remember. So when a organism has been given two or more scientific name, then which scientific name we have to consider? Principle of priority. So the first scientific name should be given the preference. Okay, when it is valid, this is to be considered. And the other scientific name, which is also valid in accordance to the rule, that has to be considered as synonym. So some of the organisms are having synonyms. They're having synonyms, means one individual organism, okay, will have more than one scientific name. In that case, first preference will be given to the first name which will be published earlier, old, and later on published names will be called as synonym. Remember this principle of priority. In some cases, species name will have two or more words. Two or more words. That kind of species name is compound species name. Species, in abbreviation we will write like this. This is species. When the species name has two or more words, that kind of species name is called as compound species name. With example, we will understand this. China rose, hibiscus flower, daswala, China rose. Scientific name is Hibiscus rosa sinensis. This is genus. This complete is species, specific name. So species has the two words, rosa sinensis. Rosa sinensis. So when the species name has the two or more words, between these words, rosa sinensis, we have to put a hyphen. We have to write hyphen mark here. So this is in case of compound species name. So this is the scientific name of China rose, daswala flower. Okay. So these are all what you call different rules of binomial nomenclature. Very important, as I mentioned yesterday. 2 mark, very important. 4 rules you have to write. You have to remember the rules which have been given in NCERT book. So in this case, that albugo candida is given the first preference, and this name is considered to be synonym. lesson. Little extra information. We have some examples. Where we have trinomial nomenclature. Trinomial nomenclature. It was given by Lamarck. Lamarck has given the trinomial nomenclature. Universally accepted binomial nomenclature, scientific name containing two words, genus name and species name. There are some examples where we have three words. So it is trinomial nomenclature. So in this, some examples we will learn. Brassica oleracea botrytis. Brassica oleracea botrytis. It is the scientific name of cauliflower, phool gobi, what we call. Cauliflower, phool gobi. So in that case, the first letter, this first word, Brassica, it is genus name, whose initial letter start with capital letter, you know that. Then the second word, this is genus, second word is species or specific name, specific epithet. Second word, initial letter, small letter. Then this third, in case of plants, this is a plant, okay. In case of plant, this third word is referred as variety. Remember, this third word is referred as variety. Botrytis. We have another example. Brassica oleracea. Capitata. Brassica oleracea capitata. This is the scientific name of cabbage. This is the scientific name of cabbage, patta gobi, what we call. Another example. Acacia nilotica. Here it is the scientific name of Indian babool. Indian babool, that gum tree, it yields gum. So here also genus, species, and this is variety. These all names are variety, species, genus. So these are what we call examples of plants where they have trinomial nomenclature: genus, species, and variety. Any more example? Gorilla, genus name. Gorilla, species name. Now, the third word here in plants we call it as variety. In animals we don't call it as variety. It is subspecies name. Genus name, first word, species name, second word, and third word here, it is referred as subspecies name. It is the scientific name of what you call gorilla. Same. English name, scientific name remains same here, that is gorilla. Then another example. Corvus splendens, genus, species name, and this is subspecies name. This is the scientific name of Indian crow. Crow. So these are examples where you have practice of using three words: generic name, specific name in animal, subspecies name in plants, variety name. So these are some examples of trinomial nomenclature. Remember. Tautonym. Tautonym, when generic name and specific name or genus name, species name are same. When generic name, genus name and specific name, specific epithet, that is species name, okay, are same. Take for example, Rattus is the scientific name of rat. It is the scientific name of rat. So here, genus name and species name remain the same. Such scientific names are called as tautonyms. Usually, tautonyms are not considered by botanists. Usually, in animals, these tautonyms are given. In plants, okay, in plants, botanists do not consider tautonyms. Remember. Autonym, 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 or plural autonyms. Here, in animal, species and subspecies name are same. Species and subspecies name are same in case of animal. Okay, that is Corvus splendens. This is crow scientific name. This is genus. This is species, and this is subspecies. So these names are same. Species and subspecies names are same. That we call it as autonym. in plant, species, and variety name. There in plant we use variety, not subspecies. Species and variety name are same. Genus, species, variety. This is bubble tree, Indian bubble tree, gum, it yield gum. So species and variety name are same. So it is autonym. So this is extra information, tautonym, autonym, extra information. Synonyms already I have told, synonyms. Synonym or synonyms. When one organism is given two or more scientific names, preference will be given to the first name published. The first name published, that will be given preference. And the names which were published later on, those names are regarded as synonyms. I give the example Albugo candida, a fungus which causes white rust disease. New name Cystopus candidus. Already I have given the name. So synonyms, tautonyms, autonyms. These as extra information you try to remember. Technically speaking, scientific name of man, which contain genus name, species name. This is author citation. Author name in abbreviation at the end of scientific name. So it has a technically, more technically correct genus name, species name, and along with author citation. So this we call it as binomial epithet. Binomial epithet, which has genus name, species name, and author citation. So this is more correct way of writing the scientific name. So remember, when they are handwritten, these should be underlined separately. When they are printed, it should be in italics, right? So these are all the rules of binomial nomenclature and few examples of trinomial nomenclature. All that we have learned. Okay, so this is all about what I call the nomenclature process using mainly binomial nomenclature. We learned about taxonomy yesterday itself, characterization and identification, nomenclature and classification of that. We have another term that you call it as systematics. Systematics. It is derived from the Latin term systema, means systematic arrangement of organisms. Systema means systematic arrangement of organisms. This word was coined by Carolus Linnaeus, who used this term for the first time, systematics. Okay, he used he used Carolus Linnaeus has used Systema Naturae as the title of his book or publication. I mentioned yesterday the books published by Carolus Linnaeus, Philosophia Botanica, Species Plantarum, and Systema Naturae. Okay, so systema means systematic arrangement of organisms. This is the meaning, right? So systematics taxonomy along with phylogeny. Taxonomy along with phylogeny. Remember, taxonomy along with phylogeny. Now, definition. Definition. Systematics in simple terms, what we will write? Taxonomy along with phylogeny. I'll give the meaning of phylogeny. Definition of systematics. One mark. Important. The study of evolutionary relationship, the study of evolutionary relationship and diversity of organisms, the study of evolutionary relationship and diversity of organism based on unique properties at every level of classification. The definition of systematics is study of evolutionary relationship and diversity. Diversity means different what you call plants, animals, rich heritage of flora and fauna. Evolutionary relationship means the present organism, the present plant or animal has evolved, originated from which ancestor. That is evolutionary history. Say man has descended from monkeys, that is apes. Man evolved from the monkeys and apes. Angiosperms evolved from gymnosperm. So that is the evolutionary history from which organism we have originated. A particular plant or animal originated. So that is the evolutionary history. So study of evolutionary relationship and diversity of organism based on unique properties at every level of classification is called systematics. This systematics takes account of systematics takes account of evolutionary relationship between organisms. Systematics takes account of evolutionary relationship between organisms. So it classifies the organisms based on the evolutionary relationship. This systematics was elaborated later on, updated later on. Systematics was elaborated later on, that includes systematics was updated or elaborated or revised later on, that includes identification, nomenclature, and classification. This is taxonomy. Characterization and identification, nomenclature and classification. So here, based on mainly what you call evolutionary relationship. So it is much broader term, taxonomy. Later on, we started using the term that is systematics. It is much broader term, as it was elaborated, expanded or revised, that can include complete taxonomy, that is identification, nomenclature and classification. This systematics is based on evolutionary relationship. So phylogeny, phylogeny. This term was used by Haeckel. Phylogeny means study of evolutionary history or just evolutionary history. Phylogeny term was coined by Haeckel, that means study of evolutionary history. We have one more term, ontogeny, just for information, remember, study of developmental history. Study of developmental history, ontogeny. So systematics is based on mainly the classification, identification, naming, classification of organism based on the evolutionary relationship we can tell. That's why what we said, taxonomy along with phylogeny. Later on, this term was what we call modified. Biosystematics, new systematics was given, or neo-systematic. New means neo-systematics. This term was given. This term was given by Julian Huxley. Huxley used the term. This is also taxonomy. This is also taxonomy based on identification, naming, classification. All these based on several characters here. Morphological, ecological, cytological, biochemical, anatomical characters. To study the living organisms, identifying, naming, classification, To do these events, scientists, taxonomists are considering morphological, anatomical, ecological, cytological, biochemical characters. So this is the new term which was introduced by Julian Huxley, that is biosystematics. Systematics, biosystematics are more or less one and the same. Don't get confused. Taxonomy along with phylogeny. So based on the evolutionary relationship, we do the systematic study, that is taxonomy. Some terms we have to learn now. Category or categories. What do you mean by categories or category? They are units of grouping. What are categories or category? Category, it is a unit of grouping. Plural categories. They are units of grouping used in classification. They are units of grouping used in classification. Remember. Example, you have species, genus, family, order, class, division. These are, we can refer them as categories. Then we have the word taxon, term taxon, singular, taxon, taxon, taxa or taxon. They are groups of organisms. Taxa refers to their group of organisms of any level. They are group of organisms of any level which have some common characteristics. They are groups of organisms of any level which have common characters. This is singular, plural. Simple, what we say, taxon is the unit of classification. Taxon is the unit of classification. Taxon is the real object. Category, it is an abstract term. Abstract term. So in this, the mammal, animal can be considered as a taxon. These can be considered as a taxon. Taxon is the real object. Category is an abstract term. In plants, you can give wheat, angiosperm, plant. These can be taxon, singular taxon, plural taxon. That to remember. Okay. These represent taxon. See, we have animal, dog. Different breeds are there. Pomeranian is there, German Shepherd is there, Alsatian is there. Okay, different breeds are there. Mudhol breed of Karnataka. Dog. It is a mammal we can form. Mammals, when we consider the name mammal, presence of external ear, presence of hairs, presence of mammary gland, these are the characters of mammal. Okay. Then mammal is a animal. Mammal is a animal. These are taxon. These are taxon. These are taxon. Okay. They are different these are all taxon which belong to different categories. They belong to different categories. What different categories? Dog, if you take species, species, canis. Okay. Then mammal belong to the class Mammalia, class Mammalia. Then animal, it belongs to kingdom Animalia. So a simple dog or cat, whatever the animal you take, this is the individual taxon what you have, okay, which are considered to be real objects. These different taxon, they belong to different categories. Taxon belong to different categories. Dog, that is species. Genus is Canis, Lupus, or Malis. This is the scientific name of what you call dog. This is species, class Mammalia, and kingdom, that is Animalia. Similarly, when you take plant, wheat or rice, then angiosperms, plants. These are different taxon. So wheat or rice, okay, wheat, triticum estiva. It is a species, particular species, genus, species, whatever it is. This. Then angiosperm, category, division, angiosperm. Then this can be kingdom. So these are taxon belonging to different category, species, particular genera, then division, then kingdom. So taxon must be recognizable. Taxon must be recognizable. And should belong to a category. And should belong to a category. So next part now. Taxonomic categories. What What do you mean by taxonomic categories? Remember, classification is not a single step process. When you classify a plant or animal, it is not a single step process. It involves hierarchy of steps. It involves hierarchy of steps. Remember, each step, each step is called or considered as a rank. Each step is considered or called as a rank, or it can be category. It can be, what is category? I told. Category is a unit of grouping used in classification. Taxon is a unit of classification, simple term. The group of organisms of any level which have some common characters. Examples I give for category and I give for the taxon. So classification is not a single step process. It involves hierarchy of steps. Each step is called or considered as a rank or category. Various ranks or categories used in classification. Various ranks or category used in classification are called as taxonomic categories. Remember, the various ranks or categories used in classification are called as taxonomic categories. Remember, what do you mean by taxonomic category? Various rank or categories used in classification. Now, hierarchy of categories. Hierarchy of categories. What do you mean by hierarchy of categories? A system of arrangement of different categories during classification. A system of arrangement of different categories during classification is known as hierarchy of categories. Hierarchy of categories. Okay. So this was first used by Carolus Linnaeus. Hierarchy of categories was first used by Carolus Linnaeus. Hence, it is referred as Linnaean hierarchy. Remember, it is also called as Linnaean hierarchy. Carolus Linnaeus, first time he used 5 categories to classify the organism. 5 categories he used. Which are those? Class, order, genus, species, variety. These were the 5 categories used by Carolus Linnaeus to classify the plant or animal. Later on, the later workers or taxonomists, later taxonomists or workers, they introduced 3 more categories. They introduced 3 more categories. Kingdom, phylum or division. Phylum in case of animals, division in case of plants. These were the 3 taxonomic categories introduced by the taxonomist later on. Initially, these were there. So these later taxonomists or later workers removed the category that is variety. Later taxonomists, they removed the category that is variety. So when we classify the organism, we usually use 7 obligate categories. 7 obligate categories. When you give the classification of any organism, compulsorily, obligatory means compulsorily, we use these different taxonomic categories: species, genus, family, order, class, phylum in case of animals, division in case of plants, then kingdom. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 obligate categories. Okay, compulsorily we use these 7 categories in the classification of organism. Okay, the complexity goes on increasing. The number of individual organism. Okay, the number of individuals go on increasing from species to kingdom. So this is the extremely complex one. This is simplest unit. This is the extremely complex one, right? So this is taxonomic hierarchy in ascending order from simple to complex. From simple to complex. Ascending order, species to kingdom. Even descending order can also be used. Descending order, that is kingdom to species. That is a descending order, complex to simple. Descending order from largest unit, complex unit, complex category to simple category. This is descending. This is the descending order. The taxonomic categories can be arranged either in ascending order or it can be in descending order. Okay, remember the simple basic units which are there of classifications. These are having more common characteristics. More common characteristics they share. The number of common characteristics shared by the individual organisms goes on decreasing from the species to kingdom. Remember this. At lowest level or category, number of common characters shared between organisms will be more. Remember, lot of similar characteristics will be there at the lowest level. Yeah, they share maximum number of common characteristics. These number of common characteristics decrease in at the higher order, at the higher level, at the higher level. As the number of examples, number of plants and animals will go on increasing in these particular categories, number of common characteristics they share will be less. Very difficult to find out the similarity between the organisms here. Very difficult to find out similarities between the organisms because more number of individuals or more number of organisms, plants and animals are placed in these groups, in these categories. So that is what I have mentioned here. Increasing characteristics, increasing common characteristics, or what you call similarities. Increasing similarities, increasing common characteristics or increasing similarities from kingdom to species. So this is the taxonomic hierarchy in ascending order. So these are the different categories or the units used in the classification of organism. So at the lower level, more the number of common characteristics they share, the more the number of common characteristics which are found at the lower level here, and common characteristics between the organisms goes on decreasing at the higher level. Usually all organisms in a taxonomic category share some common characters. Usually all organisms in a taxonomic category share common character. These characters differs. These characters differ with other category. In a particular category, the organisms which are there, they share more common character. As we compare these character with the other character, what we call different category, they differ with respect to other categories. Take for example here, you take phylum Arthropoda. It is characterized by the presence of jointed legs. It is characterized by the presence of jointed legs. Insects, okay, insect taxon, it has 3 pairs of jointed legs. When you take other arthropods, Other arthropods, they have different number of legs. In other arthropods, in insects we have 3 pairs of jointed legs. Other arthropods, when we take, okay, which are having a different category, there we see different number of legs. Similarly, in mammals also. Okay. So these are the sequential steps of classification. That's why classification is involving hierarchy of steps. Okay, different ranks or categories will be there, from lower category, lower rank to the highest rank. So we have species, genus, family, order, class, phylum in case of animals, division in case of plant, and kingdom, that is the highest taxonomic unit, top taxonomic unit. This is lowest taxonomic unit, right? So these taxonomic categories individually we have to learn. We have to learn individually these taxonomic categories. We have to learn that. I will take up in the next class. Okay. If I finish these 7 taxonomic categories, then this chapter will be over, because the taxonomic aids, that part has been removed, deleted from this chapter. Remember. See, later on, taxonomists have introduced a few more categories. Few more categories other than these 7. What they have introduced? Subphylum. The number of taxonomic categories were increased later on. Subphylum in case of animal, sub division, even we have subkingdom, subclass, subfamily, okay, subgenus, subspecies, like that. Several other taxonomic categories were introduced. So these are all different taxonomic categories which were introduced later on, but compulsorily we use these 7 obligate taxonomic category in the classification of an organism. More number of taxonomic categories will be there when you give the classification of animal as compared to the plant. More number of taxonomic categories will be there as compared to the plant. Okay, so subkingdom, subphylum, subdivision, subclass, subfamily, subgenus, subspecies, like that. Different taxonomic categories were introduced later on. Initially, Carolus Linnaeus, who used class, order, genus, species, variety. Variety was later on removed, and taxonomists introduced kingdom, phylum, or division, and they introduced family. Right. So these different taxonomic categories we have to learn, and we have to study systematic position of wheat, then man, then housefly, okay, and mango. So that we will take up in the next class.